Welcome to the Notorious Figures in History podcast. I'm your new host, Ronnie Carmichael. Today I'm here with our co-host, Jennifer Mancini. I would like to thank our founder, Mikey Babuno, for the job. Okay, now let's get started. On this channel, we uncover the real stories of mobsters, gangsters, and the underworld figures who shaped history. Each episode takes you inside the true crime tales that defined an era. Tonight we cover episode 2 of our new series on mob history, the rise and fall of the Bonanno crime family. So, Jen, let's get started. The Bonanno crime family once controlled over $2 billion in annual revenue across New York City. That's more than some monster companies of their era. But their real power wasn't just in the money, it was in their muscle and influence.
Well, Ronnie, that is fascinating to think about, especially given how it started with Cesare Bonanno arriving as just another Italian immigrant seeking opportunities in early America. Go figure, I bet Trump wouldn't be having it. Well, that's another story, bruh.
Well, Jen, what made them different was their sophisticated approach to building power. They weren't just thugs. They created this intricate web of influence, combining legitimate businesses with their, less legal ventures. Under Joe Bananas, they had their hands in everything from construction to restaurants and other nefarious activities that we will probably never know about.
You know what really stands out to me? The way they maintained control through their code of silence, omerta. It wasn't just about keeping quiet, was it? I think it's totally weird how they could keep secrets. Well, at least some of them. God knows I can't.
Oh no, Cosa Nostra was like this whole cultural system. Like, they had specific rituals for inducting new members, elaborate protocols for handling disputes. In the 1950s, they actually had a written constitution that governed everything from profit sharing to conflict resolution. Can you believe that? These guys were no joke, and not to be messed with.
So what eventually caused all that careful organization to break down? Did they really all have Gumars? I find this idea so amusing.
Funny, Jen. Well, the infamous Banana War of the 1960s really marked the beginning of the end. You had Joseph Bonanno on one side, Gaspar di Gregorio on the other, and suddenly all these carefully maintained alliances just exploded. We're talking about 12 high-ranking members killed in just 18 months. It was a famous and brutal mob war.
And that must have created openings for law enforcement to finally move in. Am I right, bro? You know I'm right.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really interesting. The Joe Pistone operation. This guy spent 6 years undercover as Donnie Brasco. He documented over 50 murders and collected evidence that led to more than 200 indictments. I'm sure many in our audience have seen the movie, but the real story is much more interesting.
Bro, the psychological pressure of maintaining that cover must have been incredible. One wrong move and boom, you're whacked on a sidewalk in front of your favorite clam house. Jeez.
You are a funny girl. And what's fascinating is how deep he got into the mob. By the end, he was so trusted that they were planning to make him a made man. That had never happened before with an undercover agent. The fallout was massive. We're talking about a 90% conviction rate from his testimony alone.
Well, I will bet you that really marked a turning point for the organization, didn't it? The old ways of doing things just couldn't survive that kind of scrutiny. Sounds like the old mob was fading into eternity.
You know, it's interesting you say that because the numbers tell the story. In the 1970s, the Bonannos controlled roughly 500 businesses across New York. By the 1990s, that number was down to less than 50. Today, experts estimate their annual revenue at maybe $20 million, a fraction of their former empire.
And yet somehow they've managed to survive, even if they're just a shadow of what they once were.
Well, that's the thing about organized crime. It adapts. Take Anthony Indelicato, who's back on the streets after serving time for the Galante murder. He's operating in a completely different world now. The territories they once controlled have gentrified, their traditional rackets are less profitable, and the younger generation just isn't interested.
That's quite a shift, bro, from the days when they could influence city politics and control entire industries. I bet they are still out there, but probably a lot more undercover.
And here's what I think is the most compelling part of their story. It's this perfect case study of how power structures fall apart from within. The same things that made them strong, family loyalty, strict hierarchy, tradition, eventually became their weaknesses in a changing world.
It's like watching the end of an era in slow motion. Now we get to enjoy their stories in movies and podcasts.
You know what's really interesting? The Bonanno family's decline mirrors bigger changes in American society. The neighborhoods they once controlled are now filled with luxury condos and artisanal coffee shops. Their story isn't just about organized crime. It's about how America itself has transformed. Look at where we are today. America is not the same as it was in the 70s and 80s.
That's such an interesting way to look at it, as a reflection of broader social changes rather than just a crime story. You can see it all around us. Well, they still say New York was a safer place when the mob controlled it.
Exactly. And so was Las Vegas. Maybe that's why these stories still fascinate us. They remind us how quickly power can slip away when you're fighting against the tide of history. The real question isn't how the Bonannos fell. It's how any organization survives when the world around it changes so dramatically. Thanks for listening to the Notorious Figures in History podcast. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with a fellow true crime fan. And don't stop here. Check out our other long-form documentaries on the channel for even more untold stories of mobsters, gangsters, and notorious figures. Until next time, stay curious and stay notorious.